things about being able to come down here and preside as you are, and something that I've had the opportunity to do a lot, is that when you're in the chair, you get to hear a lot about other members of the Senate, their home states. A lot of people like to come down, as they should, and talk about their constituents, talk about so many different things that are happening throughout our country. We just heard the senator from Arkansas talk about some local heroes in his state. He came down here on the floor and talked about them. And I've had the opportunity presiding to hear many great stories. Vietnam veterans in North Dakota. Great basketball from the presiding officer's state of Indiana. Proud members of our military who live in Texas. Tight-knit communities responding to disasters in states across our nation. And these are great stories, and they're in many ways what make our nation great. It's what makes our nation strong. Hearing about all the different wonderful communities that we have. And I certainly have learned a lot from listening to these speeches, and I encourage my colleagues to come down and talk about their states. Do a little bragging. And that's what I'm going to do for the next couple minutes, Mr. President. My state, the great state of Alaska, has certainly captured the country's imagination in a lot of ways. It's hard to turn on cable TV without seeing a new show on Alaska. And for good reason. There is so much in the great state of Alaska that's awe-inspiring, that captures the imagination of the American people. Our mountain ranges, hundreds of them, literally seem to go on for miles and miles, forever, like waves in the ocean. The color of our glaciers is unlike anything you've seen before. Our rivers and streams, particularly this time of year, are choked with salmon, millions and millions of salmon. We have moose and bear and wolves and caribou, muskox. But one of the very best things about Alaska, one of the things that makes us very unique, is our mix of cultures and the extraordinary lengths people in Alaska go to keep these cultures alive. Today, I would like to speak specifically about the culture of whaling, and would like to honor our Alaska Eskimo whaling captains, heroes in our communities, and the communities that support these brave Americans. In Alaska, 11 communities in northern Alaska, what we call the North Slope, participate in 2 whaling seasons. Nuiqsut, Kivalina, Barrow, Kaktovik, Wainwright, Gamble, Little Diomede, Wales, Point Lay, Savuga, Point Hope. These are the whaling communities of my state. There's the spring whaling season and the fall whaling season. Both correspond to the migration patterns of the great bowhead whale. The spring has ended now, and it's time for celebration. Nulakatuk season is upon us. And this is when the communities get together to celebrate the harvest. It's like a summer picnic on the top of the world, but without hot dogs. Families eat whale and muktuk. Mr. President, let me spend a few minutes to talk about what it takes to harpoon a whale. Now, I've never done it, but a lot of my constituents have. Amazingly, today's whaling captains and crews still hunt using handheld harpoons, as their ancestors had done for thousands of years. During the spring harvest, many of the villages, also as their ancestors had done, go into the icy waters of the Arctic in hand-skinned boats that are built using wooden frames and hand-sewn walrus and bearded skin, sealskin. When a bowhead whale is landed to spread the good news, the people exclaim, "Yay, hey, hey," across the North Slope. The VHF radios that sit on kitchen counters and dining room tables all across this part of Alaska begin to buzz. When a whale is brought to shore, the entire community comes out to help pull the giant Leviathan in. It is such an exciting time for these communities. It's exciting because it happens every time it happens, a piece of this culture, this important culture, is reenacted and honored. The whales are honored, and every part of the animal is used. These are subsistence communities, meaning they use this whale, all of it. So whale meat is necessary to feed these communities. A whale can produce between 6 to 25 tons of food on average. And I should point out, Mr. President, that we have no road system in northern Alaska, so these communities are only accessible by air or seasonal barge transport, and some can only be reached this way at certain times of the year. In other words, these communities need their food, they need these whales. The annual bowhead whale migration provides the largest subsistence resource available in these remote areas of our great state. Even so, when a whale is taken, the sharing does not stop simply with the residents of the community. The food is shared with other subsistence communities and family members throughout our state. This is yet another amazing example of the resourcefulness that have enabled humans to survive in the Arctic for millennia, and that shaped the character of Alaska to this day. Yet throughout the years, it's sometimes been a struggle for the first peoples of Alaska to get their quota of whales. Back in 1977, the International Whaling Commission tried to shut down the subsistence harvest for Alaska's native people. It was relying on incorrect population estimates provided by Western scientists, and they were ignoring what we in Alaska call traditional knowledge. The Alaska Eskimo Whaling Captains organized and started the Alaska Eskimo Whaling Commission, which is alive and well and thriving today. Here is a great story. Back in 1977, when the IWC, the International Whaling Commission, attempted to shut down the harvest in Alaska for Alaska Natives, our whalers told the Western science, "You don't know how to count the whales because you're looking for them from the air during the spring migration, and they're swimming under the spring ice. You have to listen for them under the ice." When one of the scientists argued that the whales wouldn't swim under the ice because it's too dangerous, Harry Brower Sr., the father of some of today's prominent whalers, took the science to the ice edge, put an oar in the water, and told the scientist to put his ear to the oar. What the scientists heard was an entire world of marine life invisible to the eye. From that, a research program using both traditional knowledge, Alaska Native knowledge, and Western science was born, and that is used today, still today, to monitor the size of the Western Arctic bowhead whale population. This research program, still combining Western science and traditional knowledge, is considered the gold standard, the most accurate and sophisticated way in which marine biologists measure whaling populations. The bowhead whale population is healthy and growing. Currently, it is estimated that there are about 20,000 bowhead whales, up from about 10,000 in 2001. And our communities in Alaska do an enormously important part in terms of making sure there's conservation of the bowhead whale. The current catch limits for Alaska Natives is no more than 67 whales a year, a fraction of a percentage of the total population. Now, that limit was set in 2013 and will last until 2018, when the IWC meets to establish new catch limits. Mr. President, every time a new catch limit, a new quota comes up, there's a fight between the Alaska Eskimo Whaling Commission and the countries that don't respect that tradition and want to stop all subsistence whaling, including for my constituents. And what I'm hoping these kind of talks do is that they will make all the members of the Senate understand how important this tradition is for Americans, for Alaska Natives, and that they can learn more about this important tradition. And I will do everything in my power to work with my colleagues here in the Senate to ensure that when the quota comes up in 2018, they have their fair share. This is a vital tradition. It's vital for subsistence, and it's vital to keep a culture alive and to respect a group of great Americans who bring uniqueness and strength not only to Alaska, but to our country. Here's how one of our Alaska Eskimo whaling captains puts it, quote, "To our people, the bowhead is more than food. It keeps our families together. It keeps our children in school. It allows our elders to pass generational knowledge to our youth. It teaches us patience and perseverance. It teaches us generosity. It strengthens our communities. It provides wisdom. It provides insight. It gives us hope. It is our way of life. The spirit of the whale lives within each of us." Let me repeat that last line. The spirit of the whale lives within each of us. These are some of the people of my state. These are my constituents. And as I've said before, Mr. President, Alaska has bragging rights right now. Our whalers and their cultures and their traditions are certainly worth bragging about. I yield the floor.